this person is a monster. It's a subhuman. This person doesn't think like you and I do. This person is not going to make sense. Welcome to JonBenèt Ramsey Sketchy Details, Part 16. First and foremost, I apologize for the background noise. It is raining like crazy here. We're dealing with Hurricane K, so I apologize for that. Hopefully it'll stop soon. But if you have not watched parts 1 through 15, it's highly advised that you do because these are in chronological order. This video, along with every video in the JonBenèt Ramsey Sketchy Details series, are intended for educational purposes only and are not intended for children at all. Number 74. On June 18th of 1997, a man named Donald Foster, who was a professor at the Vassar College in Poughkeepsie, New York, sent a letter to Patsy Ramsey. On the first page, he tells Patsy of his credentials, where he explains that he is an expert text analyst and a computer expert, and how he has recently started helping attorneys and investigators, and just recently started assisting in the prosecution of Ted Kaczynski. And he also takes credit as being the person to identify Joe Klein as the author of the bestseller Primary Colors, written by Anonymous, who 6 months after its release did confess to being the actual author, as well as proudly stating that he has never been wrong in any of the analysis that he has done. On the second page, he tells Patsy how he believes that she did not kill her daughter and that she did not do anything to harm her daughter. And he states that he has looked closely at the police disclosure concerning the unpublished ransom note and studied the incomplete transcripts of it. So he's claiming to have gotten some sort of sneak peek preview of the ransom note before it has come out. Okay, keep that in your mind. Then he goes on to tell her how her reputation has been dragged through the mud and is completely tarnished on the World Wide Web, and how Burke's, identity has been disturbed as well because people are saying that he's guilty, and just pretty much saying that he is so sorry that her reputation is being tarnished, as if her reputation was something that was so important to uphold, which I think is kind of weird. But he also says oh, blah blah blah, I don't look at this the same way that ordinary Americans do, meaning this guy clearly thinks he's an elitist of some sort. And on the third page, he claims that he thinks he is able to exonerate her from any presumption of guilt with respect to the ransom note, which has not been released yet. Further saying that he knows a lot about what's been going on behind the scenes, meaning the internet and elsewhere, but he basically offers to help her prove her innocence if she agrees to keep their exchange completely private. He doesn't want her to call him on her house phone for fear that her phone is bugged, and he's just basically saying, hey, reach out to me very privately and we'll have a super private conversation, and then I'll maybe try to help you. Well, Patsy never ended up replying to this guy, but as weird fate or luck or whatever, pure chaos in this case would have it, 6 months after he wrote this letter to Patsy, unbeknownst to the Boulder Police Department, the Boulder Police contacted him to come assist them on this case. And at this point, the ransom note has already been available to the public for 3 months. Now, while this guy was assisting the Boulder Police Department, he came to the conclusion that Patsy did write the ransom note. So after all that stuff that he said in his note or letter to Patsy about how he believed her and he could prove that she did not write it, he actually gets a hold of it and says, oh shit, yeah, she did write this. So anything that I have told you to take a little side note of are things that set off red flags in my head when I first read or learned about those things, like all the December birthdays and deaths, and John Mark Carr's chosen last name, along with this new one, which is a big one. I find it very odd. Coincidence or not. But, so Donald Foster, his letter that expresses some sort of special access to the incomplete police transcripts and disclosure of the ransom note that he sent to Patsy before the ransom note came out is exactly the same length as the ransom note itself. It is 2.5 pages, just like the ransom note that he did not read yet. He only saw police notes on the ransom note. However, this is not the only oddity or sketchy aspect of Donald Foster's letter. So, he was a professor where? At Vassar University, or Vassar College, actually. And Vassar College is a liberal arts college that was strictly all girls. It's located in Poughkeepsie, New York, and was founded by Matthew Vassar in 1861. And Matthew Vassar was a Freemason with a Solomon Lodge. I had never heard of that, but apparently it's a thing. It has a very impressive alumni list, including Jacqueline Kennedy, Jane Fonda, and Meryl Streep, just to name a few. And they have an acceptance rate of only 25%. It's also an all-girls school. Now, in Vassar's early days, they used to have a bunch of different ceremonies or rituals that they would perform, including the maypole rituals, which is a fertility ritual, along with the daisy chain ritual, which is also a fertility ritual, and something that they named the trig ceremonies. Here is a picture of such trig ceremony held at Vassar College. Now, they ended up stopping these ceremonies, but they still went on for many, many years, many of the early beginning years of the Vassar College. A little while later in Vassar's history, they once considered a merger with Yale University. Yale is known for its secret societies. Vassar is one of 7 of the prestigious liberal arts colleges that are a part of what is known as the 7 Sisters Schools. Where does the 7 Sisters play into this case? That's right, that was the book by Dr. Seuss that was found in the suitcase that was supposedly belonging to John Andrew. This is an article from the school newspaper where a student is talking about how 10 years before the time this article is being written, that another student had discovered a secret underground den underneath Vassar University, underneath one of their buildings. And the student that found it said that there was a pentagram on the floor, a drawn or painted picture of Lucifer or Satan or something on the wall, and that there were animal sacrifices down there. And the person that found it also wrote a newspaper article about it. Well, the administration at the time that the den was discovered got rid of the article and forbid it from being published. Well, this article that I'm showing you is from 10 years after, about one of these students saying, hey, did you guys know that there's an article that the administration does not want you to know about or read? And it also states that the den has now been sealed off and it's no longer able to be entered by the students. What I'm trying to point out to everyone is how interwoven into Patsy's life and JonBenèt's life in a sense, but mainly Patsy's life, this all sorts of witchcraftery and weird religion and Freemasonic influence that is surrounding and drenched in Patsy's life, as well as like point out how there's a lot of like, I don't even know what to call them. They're not sketchy. They're like improbable coincidences. But we're just going to move on to number 75. So for number 75, I'm going to refer to their book, Death of Innocence. And on page 310 of Death of Innocence, John states that in April of 1999, someone was sending emails to different people that were in a chat forum about this case, sending emails to different people that belonged to this forum, and was signing them as Patricia, implying that they were his wife. They were Patsy, who was sending these emails. He goes on to state that him and Patsy became aware of this email sender signing as Patricia when one of the email recipients sent Patsy a postcard, and this woman was from Wisconsin who sent the postcard. And supposedly, this is what John is saying, that on the postcard, the Wisconsin lady wrote, "Your last email sounded like you were very down." Now, the book continues with John saying, "At first I couldn't figure out the strange card, but later I put two and two together and realized that someone was on the internet anonymously posing as Patsy. That by itself wasn't particularly disturbing until I was able to get hold of some of the emails. They were extremely bizarre. We turned these emails over to the investigators to try to locate the sender, but found the mysterious Patricia sender was clever enough to hide their tracks by using an alias and rerouting the emails through a computer service at MIT, and then rerouting them to a different part of the country." Now, before I go any further with this, because trust me, it's going to get confusing as shit, okay? But before I go any further with it, I should give a little, very summarized, little breakdown of what's going on here, okay? So, in the beginning of this case, within the first 2 years, there was a popular forum, chat forum that was set up where there was a, couple handful of very dedicated writers. They would, add their opinions to this website, and they were doing their own investigation into it, okay? This is kind of where Jameson comes into play. I know that I told you I mentioned her in a last video. I'm going to kind of tell you about her. She was the moderator of this chat site. She wasn't the owner, but she was a moderator. Something happened, blah, blah, blah. She ended up not being the moderator anymore and trying to take the name of this website, this chat forum, with her, and started a second chat forum about the same thing. This is where the divide kind of came in to the people that believed the media story and the people that were actually doing the investigation and actually looking at the evidence, And so that's where she comes in. Anyway, at one point, somebody joined the forum and started emailing other people that were using the forum and saying that they were Patricia, and saying that they really needed someone to talk to and that they really needed a friend. Obviously, a lot of people, a few, started having one-on-one direct contact conversations through email with this Patricia poster. This woman from Wisconsin that sent the postcard to Patsy at her Charlevoix, Michigan home is one of these writers, and she wrote on this forum under the name Cheesy. I believe it was Cheesy. If not, I'll put it right here in text of what it was, but I believe it was Cheesy.
And she said, after the book came out, that what John said about what she wrote on the postcard was a complete lie. And he goes on to say in the book that people that were receiving these emails would send them to Jameson so she could verify them, right? Like Jameson would know. And this woman from Wisconsin, Cheesy, also said that that was a complete lie because at the time that these emails were being sent between the Patricia sender and these other forum writers, there was kind of a battle going on between Jameson and pretty much everybody else. Jameson started to become obsessed with the case, with being like in charge of shit, or she was bought and hired to do this, but she started to censor, if you will, the forum in the sense of everything had to filter through her, and she started to become very pro Ramsey. So much so that at one point she actually met Patsy Ramsey in person and sort of became this trusted liaison for the internet culture that was starting around her daughter's murder. Okay, so I'm going to need you to try your hardest to bear with me because this is an extremely lengthy and utterly confusing matter that I am attempting to simplify and explain in a very condensed matter. Because if I was to try and say everything that has to deal with this Patricia Papers phenomenon or try to explain it all, it would seriously warrant an entire series dedicated to the Patricia Papers because it's insane. So the main two people that I'm going to be referencing, their pen names, what they were writing under on this web forum, one of them is Cheesy, like I already said, and the other one is G squared. Now, when I actually show you guys the letters, you're going to see Patty and Gail. Patty is Cheesy, but for the sake of clarity, I'm not going to call her Patty because, well, Patty is way too fucking close to Patsy and Patricia. And then Gail is G squared. There's also going to be another man that was in contact with this Patricia sender, and his name was Collins, but he didn't have a 7-month relationship with this Patricia sender. And just between G squared and Cheesy alone, they racked up more than 750 emails between themselves and this Patsy sender. That would be over 100 emails per month because this only went on for a little less than 7 months. So that's insane. And they're all available. And it's like, that's what I was trying to go through last night. I'll show you guys like on a screenshot of just how insane it is. But I will show you guys some of the letters that were sent between these people because a lot of people thought that the sender was Jameson, because Jameson has done some weird shit before in the past with these websites. And then plus she was like obsessed with being like the #1 Ramsey fan, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, a lot of people thought it was Jameson. A lot of people thought it was the killer. A lot of people thought that they were actually talking to Patricia. There's actually another email recipient of these Patricia letters who kind of joined in later on, like G squared and Cheesy had already been exchanging emails with it for like 5 months already. Anyway, it's either Mamie or Mame, M-A-M-E is what they wrote under, but their name is Mary. But after they were communicating with this Patricia sender, they went back on the forum and sort of refused to share their letters with the Patricia sender because all these recipients were communicating with each other on the forum and sharing some of it. Some of them kept some stuff private, but they were still talking about it because, they were trying to figure it out. Well, this Mamie person ends up saying, these letters actually became very personally emotional for me, and I am not going to be sharing these, and blah, blah, blah. And that was sort of the whole purpose of her getting involved, was to get more insight to if this person really was Patricia Ramsey. So that's the first mystery with these Patricia papers. The second mystery is within these Patricia papers, the person that was posting as Patricia started talking about a mysterious man whom she had been writing through actual mail for over a year already, and who spoke of her daughter in very poetic, romantic ways, but yet she still talked to him for well over a year. And the Patricia sender even states how this mystery man has sort of swooned her and won her over. She defends him, but yet she even says that she thinks he might be the actual killer. So I'm going to show you guys some of these email exchanges. And real quick, here is a quick character list. So you have the email recipients, then you have the forum moderator, which is Jameson, and the email sender, which is the supposed Patsy, along with her mystery man. I will also be talking briefly about Jim Tipton, Michael Tracy, and Carol McKinley. So hopefully that helps, and hopefully you're keeping up, because unfortunately it just gets sort of more confusing from here. So the very first email between any of the recipients and this Patricia sender was on April 19th of 1999. The forum writer, known as Cheesy, wrote to Ramsey at nym.alias.net, an email address, after having found a website, which is findagrave.com, where someone had posted JonBenèt's and Beth's gravesite pictures along with a caption under each picture. Within the caption to JonBenèt's picture was the alias.net email address, along with the sign-off of a friend of the Ramseys. Cheesy wrote out of pure curiosity and to inquire on the validity of this person's claim of being a friend of the Ramseys. This is that first exchange here. Now this is going to be the only picture of messages that I show you that looks like this. I just wanted to show you all of the top information to show you how convoluted and how hard encrypted these messages were between the two of them. But the rest of messages that I show you, I'll just crop that off. But I just wanted to show you guys to see how it's pretty confusing, and sometimes in the notes they start from the bottom, so it's pretty confusing on some parts, but for the most part I'm showing you guys ones that are pretty simple. So Cheesy's first initial message starts below the red line and reads, "I'm curious about someone who would put JonBenèt's gravesite picture on the World Wide Web and claim to be a friend of the Ramseys." The reply that she got back from this ramseyalias.net is under the green line, and it simply reads, "Thank you for your concern. I do not see anything wrong with JonBenèt's gravesite on that page. It is a tribute to her memory. I also thought it important to also include Beth's gravesite as well. Beth was a very special person as well." Take note that this exchange is ending with the Ramsey.net sender's message, and also that the Ramsey.net sender is not yet signing off with a sign-off name. So a pretty normal first email exchange between two strangers, right? But with it ending with the Ramsey sender, you would naturally think that Cheesy would then reply next. Well, this is where it gets kind of weird and bizarre. So instead, the Ramsey writer writes right after the very next day without Cheesy saying anything else, and they kind of go on this rant. So this is the third email exchange, and it starts with the Ramsey sender saying, "I wish you would not be angry with me. I assure you that there are others who deserve that much more than me. I answer the remainder of this mail with all due respect to you. I am sorry that you are upset about the tribute. Maybe I can clarify some things here. Please do not perceive anything that I say as negative. Cheesy simply responded, I'm sorry, this whole grave thing seems weird to me. Very distasteful, in my opinion. The Ramsey sender replied, no, the tabloids that plaster JonBenèt's face on the cover is distasteful. These same pictures that gain a child's attention and alert him to the lies that are plastered just below them. The lies that have caused grief for this family. No, John Andrew being chased through an airport by press photographers is distasteful. No, film footage of Beth's accident being shown on public television for her mother to see is distasteful. Notice that there are no pictures of JonBenèt on this page. The only picture that should be allowed to be printed is a picture of her grave. There is nothing distasteful about her grave. Unlike the tabloids and other websites, I have nothing but permission to create a tribute to JonBenèt. My permission was gained respectfully from my closeness to JonBenèt. It was gained long before her death. In closing, I am sorry that you feel the way you do. Have you written to the tabloids about their pictures? Have you written to the television, newspapers, and talk shows concerning their mission to destroy this family? You've written to me. You've expressed your disapproval of a simple tribute. No titillating headlines captioned below my pictures. I am more sorry if you think I am angry with you. I certainly am not. My identity will remain anonymous. There is no real reason why my address is there. It is the policy of the page to acknowledge the contributor. The page has been nestled safely within his website for almost a year now. That is one of the reasons I chose his site for my tribute. And then it goes on to say thank you and blah, blah, blah. Two things I want to point out. The fact that this exchange is more so being fueled by the Ramsey sender, and that at the end, where it says nestled safely within his site, this is why I chose his site, makes it seem like to me that they put it there thinking that nobody was going to see it, let alone see the email address that was associated with it. Now, on the day that Cheesy first messaged this Ramsey sender, which was the 19th of April, she also posted on this forum that she was working on a new project where she was briefly talking to someone who she found on the Find a Grave website, and that she suspected that it was Jameson pulling one of her pranks. Well, Jameson saw this and quickly replied, I have no interest in whatever you're working on, and I assure you that this person is not me. I could care less what you're doing. So almost verifying from the very first day that it was not her. Little did Jameson know that it was going to become this huge thing, and Jameson never once communicated with this Patricia sender, and that drove Jameson nuts. When she discovered that the project Cheesy was working on was potentially having her in direct contact with Patricia Ramsey, which was not known until June 26th of 1999, when the Ramsey sender first sent a message with the sign-off name Patricia. This Patricia paper phenomenon is actually so compartmentalized that I actually already need to make a correction. So when I first started talking about this, I said that at some point this mystery Ramsey friend sender started posting on the forum. This friend of the Ramseys, Ramsey.net, potentially Patricia sender, never once posted on these forums. Everything that was communicated between this sender and any of the other recipients was all only through emails. The things that were being put on the forums were what the forum writers were discussing with each other. Does that make any sense? And just to clarify, there's only one forum that I'm referring to, which is the main one they all talked on, but there were at least 4 or 5 forums that these different users were talking about this same subject on. So, hopefully you're not too lost, but since that is a whole hell of a lot of information to take in and process, I'm actually going to stop this video here, and we will pick up this conversation in the next video. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And God bless. Evil on this scale is impossible to comprehend. To know who murdered JonBenèt Ramsey would be to know what world we live in, where we are.